Hi guys, and thanks for joining me today on Family Research Tips. I'm Holly Browning from the Lebanon Public Library, and thanks for joining me. Today I decided to do something a little bit fun. I got the idea from Barb and Dylan, who do our Lebanon Public Library podcast, which if you haven't checked that out, you need to because it's super fun. They did a kind of top 10 Letterman style about our new library app, so I decided to do a Holly's top 10 genealogy rules and kind of go through them with you, and kind of without the satire a little bit, so it's not as fun, but these are basically my top 10 rules that you really do need to know and follow if you're into any kind of family research and genealogy. So without further ado, I will start with number 10, and number 10 is don't be afraid to ask for help, because you're going to need help. Somebody is always going to have information that you do not have, and you're always going to want to share information and ask someone else if they will share that information, and you cannot be nervous or scared to ask another person, because that's what this is all about, and that's why they have these big databases, and it's for people to share what other people do not have. So that's definitely a very important point, is never be afraid of looking dumb because you don't know something, because you're not going to know everything. That's for sure and certain. So on to number 9. Number 9 is go offline. You are not going to find everything online. And that's just, even in today's times, you are not going to find everything online. There are so many older manuscripts that have not been uploaded to any sort of database. They are still in microfilm. They are still at the counties, where they were recorded. There are so many things that are still not, you're not able to see or restricted for online, that for your research, you're going to have to do things offline. You're going to have to maybe order copies. Call into a county or a city and order a birth certificate that might not be online, that sort of thing. And you'll always want, in your research, you'll at some point you'll want to travel, and that's definitely going off the grid, so to speak, and going offline. So not everything that you have in family research is going to be found online. So number 8. Number 8 is kind of the same, kind of close to the same as number 9. It's don't limit with online sites. But what I mean with that is, if you have a MyHeritage subscription and that's all that you use, you're missing some information. If you have an Ancestry subscription and that's all that you use to look up your information, you're going to be missing stuff. Not everybody shares to the same sites. Not everybody has a subscription to the same sites. And there are so many nowadays that you don't limit yourself to one and think that all of that family's information is going to be uploaded to that database, because it won't be. So moving on to number 7. Number 7, this is really important because you will miss stuff on this. And I'm still coming up on 3 or 4 years later realizing that the reason I didn't find a person in the census is because of 2 letters that were switched around. Name variations are extremely important, especially back in the olden days when they had an actual person writing down information and trying to spell what they heard. People that don't even have any clue on how to spell their own name, and that was a real thing. Last names, they were changed. They were changed to be less Jewish or less German or less Spanish. They were changed a lot. So you're going to always want to check and put in different name variations to find a family or a person. Number 6, always look again. This is extremely important because, like I said, you can be 20 and 30 years into researching something and you'll find it. Just by looking somewhere that you've already looked. And that always happens. I mean, it doesn't seem like it would, but it does. Always look again. You could just miss something that you don't even know that you missed. and it's just important. It's kind of like proofreading. Just make sure that you take a perusal again or check back in 6 months, however you want to do that, but always just recheck. Number 5 is expect surprises. This is a big one. There are people that have a lot of issues when they get surprises because they have been told a certain thing by their family, or they really think that they were told that they were Native American, and that turns out to be not true. Expect those things. There's no way that you can not expect that you're going to find some, because you're not going to know everything. And things that are passed down might, over time, the oral tradition gets kind of skewed and you're not going to know. So you can't go in with a mindset that you already know everything, because that's not always how it is. And people can be very easily fooled, or they might have just heard these stories, they pick them up and they run with them. There are a lot of people that get into a lot of unnecessary arguments over this sort of thing because they won't change their rigid thinking. Their great grandma told them this and that is true, and end of story. You can't really have that attitude in family research. You just gotta roll with it, and like I said, expect the surprises. So number 4, always cite your sources. And I would recommend, I know that there are a lot of different databases, and there's a lot of different ways that you can look up how to cite your sources the proper way, if you're wanting to do it the proper way. If you don't do it the proper way and just want to kind of write your own kind of little a way to cite sources, do it the same way each time, because that's going to help you to kind of know what you're looking at. If you kind of do all over the place and just write whatever you want, that's going to get very confusing for you in your files and online. So you're going to want to cite you're going to want to cite your sources, just due to the fact that people will challenge you if you share. If you share and they don't agree with what you have found, it's much better to say, well, I found it here and on this date and that sort of thing, instead of, well, I don't really remember. That's kind of how that argument will end there. So always try to cite your sources. Number 3 is never copy another person's tree. I don't care if you think that they are 100% correct. Do your own tree. It's really important. You want your own research, not someone else's. You never know where they got their information. Even if it's cited, do your own research. I mean, that's the fun of it. You can get ideas, obviously, from someone else's tree. Don't copy it. It needs to be your very own tree. So number 2, do not make assumptions. And that's just, that's kind of in anything. You're not going to want to just assume that you know everything, kind of like I said before, because you're not going to know everything. You're going to come up against some surprises. So, you don't need to make any unnecessary assumptions. And number 1, my number 1 rule, never give up, because you will find what you're looking for eventually. Excuse me. And it will be possibly 5 years from now, and it'll pop up, and you will have that census that you've been looking for, that picture you've been looking for. It's not going to come all at once. It's going to take a while to do all this research. And there's no reason that you need to give up on what you're searching for. Even if you think you've exhausted all your options, more options will always be coming available. More databases are coming available. More people are contributing. More people are sharing. Even on Facebook forums, on YouTube, on all the Find a Grave, on all the things I've talked about, there are so many options. So many people adding things monthly, weekly, almost daily. Never give up on your research. So, even though it wasn't hilarious like Letterman would do, those are my top 10 genealogy rules. So, if you follow them, I say you will have some smooth sailing, and I wish you luck, and hopefully I will see you again. Thank you for watching.